Hey there, Scoobies. We're finally here. School Hard isn't one of my favourite episodes, but its importance can't be understated. We open on Principal Snyder giving a rousing speech.
A lot of educators tell students, think of your principal as your pal. I say, think of me as your judge, jury, and executioner.
Despite being cast as a foil for Buffy, I found the older I get, the more I tend to understand him. On paper, Sheila and Buffy look like they need a little discipline in their lives.
On the one hand, Buffy hasn't stabbed a horticulture teacher with a trowel. On the other hand, Sheila has never burnt down a school building.
And I don't disagree with Snyder's methods here. Instilling discipline by giving them responsibilities and placing them in charge of an event is actually not a bad way of going about it. The threat of expulsion, not so much. But despite the negative connotations, fear is a motivator. I just don't think it will instill that in Sheila. Buffy shares her woes with Willow and Xander, who makes the faux pas of jinxing things.
It's no biggie. You'll have a nice soiree. Parents will love it. As long as nothing really bad happens between now and then, you'll be fine.
And then we get our boy. You gotta give it Spike. He likes to make an entrance.
Home sweet home.
Everything about this scene tells you all you need to know about Spike. Crashing through the sign is representative of going against the establishment, which is a very punk rock sentiment. Then, coupled with the chugging distorted guitars as he's revealed, completes the image. Post-credits, we cut to the Anointed One and this nobody posturing.
When I kill her, it'll be the greatest event since the crucifixion. And I should know, I was there.
The religious cult-like theme seems to continue here, like they did in the episode When She Was Bad, and also before with the Master himself. It really highlights Spike as the new world, the youth revolting against the establishment.
If every vampire who said he was at the crucifixion was actually there, it would have been like Woodstock.
I ought to rip your throat out.
I was actually at Woodstock. That was a weird gig.
Spike is bragging when Drusilla is introduced.
Who am I kidding? I love to brag. There was this one Slayer during the Boxer Rebellion.
Drusilla.
From the outset, they are both a little unhinged, but her crazy is the yin to his yang. Whereas Spike is extrovert, Drew is more reserved. Hers is a quiet kind of crazy.
I can't see her. The Slayer, I can't see. It's dark where she is. Kill her.
Drew says it's dark and she can't see her where she is. This, along with her previous line about the Anointed One, tells us she's not like other vampires, and that she may have clairvoyant abilities. We cut to another classic Joyce and Buffy moment, where she is, as always, being the voice of encouragement.
What I don't want is to be disappointed in you again.
Despite usually crapping on Joyce, I'm going to hold off this time. Mainly because this is setting up for the episode's payoff, but also because these are genuine concerns, and the fact that Joyce is even willing to discuss them openly with Buffy shows she's beginning to treat her more like an equal. The end of this sequence would also have been so much nicer if left on Joyce's line.
I have a lot of pressure on me right now.
Wait till you get a job.
I have a job.
Despite the on-the-nose comment, Buffy does have a job. But I suppose the point of this isn't for Buffy to realise her responsibility, it's for the others to understand she has it. Buffy's getting ready for her parent-teacher night when Rupenny enter, reminding Buffy of her other responsibilities.
You're being a tad flip, don't you think? This is serious.
And getting kicked out of school is laughs aplenty?
You know, I don't blame her. Buffy has two key adult role models, each representing facets of her life, each pressuring her in the importance of their part of the whole. Giles' next line,
When it comes to battle, Buffy must fight alone. You are, after all, the Slayer.
foreshadows Buffy's fight at the end of the season, Kendra's representation of the Slayer archetype, and even at the end of the episode, and what makes her different. Snyder comes to break them up, and Buffy covers for Sheila. Willow is trying to help Buffy study at the Bronze. Now, I'm all for suspending disbelief, but that anyone is taking homework to a local club is a step too far. Xander comes to get them to dance, while Spike stalks his prey. The following scene showcases why Spike is so dangerous, and, well, why Spike is dangerous. On the one hand, he is calculating, taking the time to watch the Slayer fight, working her out. On the other, he's impulsive. He can't wait to reveal himself, losing the element of surprise, but gaining an edge of intimidation. The Scoobies theorise about who Spike is when Angel shows up.
Well, he can't be any worse than any other creature you faced.
He's worse. Once he starts something, he doesn't stop.
And disappears.
Okay, that's it. I'm putting a collar with a little bell on that guy.
Drew is playing with her dolls while Spike demands that she eat something. The dolls in this case are bound and gagged. Nothing more than playthings for Drew. This sets us up for the reveal. Because to Drew, Sheila is nothing more than a doll to play with. The Scoobs are preparing for the vampire attack while Buffy is preparing for the parent-teacher night. This parallel being that to her mother's meeting with her teachers is preparing for war. Cordy and Xander are back to taking shots at one another.
Does anybody remember when Saturday night meant date night?
You sure don't.
And despite her protests, Cordy's still there. There's no reason for it. She's just in the library. We've now become so accustomed to her that Cordy has become a member of the gang without us even noticing. I also think that her being there is more to do with a subconscious attraction to Xander that she's not even aware of. Buffy manages to keep her mother away from the teachers for most of the night, and Cordy comes to comment on the effect that it seems to be having on her.
You're starting to look a little slagged.
Much like the previous scene, once upon a time, Cordy wouldn't be caught dead near Buffy, and now she's given her makeup tips.
What are you, just skipping foundation entirely now?
Which to her is a nice thing. Giles finds something on Spike. Notice how he makes a comparison to Angel and their respective age.
Oh, well, here's some good news. He's barely 200. He's not even as old as Angel is.
Keep in mind the parallels set out this episode.
Spike has fought 2 Slayers in the last century.
In the car, now.
He's killed them both.
Spike jumping through the window at this moment is the physical hurdle for Buffy and is the parallel of her home and school issues. Buffy takes immediate control
I have a job.
and goes about saving the adults. Meanwhile, her spirit is saving Cordy. This is a nice little moment for Willow on her personal journey. Whereas Xander would often jump into danger, Willow was more of a passive member of the Scoobies. But here, we see the Wallflower acting in the moment. Buffy continues to take charge.
Who do you think you are?
And despite it being her job to fight vampires, she's not an idiot.
Serious, you can't go out there.
I know. That's why I'm going up there.
I love this scene of Spike walking through the halls looking for Buffy shrouded in darkness. Part of his menace is the confidence he has. The whole concept of the Slayer is they should spark a sense of dread in vampires, but not him.
Someone's in the ceiling.
Giles is once again feeling the sense of responsibility when Buffy comes crashing in, and back in the classroom, Snyder helps one of the parents get eaten while Joyce is trying to get them to see sense. Buffy starts taking out the vamps and comes across Sheila. This is almost an homage to the opening episode where they use Jesse in much the same way. Angel shows up and uses Xander to get close to Spike. There are a few things at play here, so let's take them one at a time.
Angelus!
Spike refers to him as Angelus, which is what he went by before being cursed.
Come up against his Slayer yet? She's cute. Not too bright, though.
Angel plays along, but in retrospect, this is foreshadowing for the second half of the season.
I taught you to always guard your perimeter.
Angel's reference to teaching Spike is also setting us up for their dynamic, but more on this in a minute. Finally, and what doesn't get talked about enough, this is another example where Xander, who, let's face it, already doesn't like Angel, is given yet another reason to hate him. Meanwhile, Buffy is stalking her next victim, while Sheila is stalking her next victim, and we get a pretty cool slay. Okay, back to Angel and Spike.
You think you can fool me? You were my sire, man! You were my Yoda!
This accomplishes a couple of things. First of all, that Spike isn't a fool, deepening the validity of his prowess. But more so, it's setting us up for the real big bad. Their lines here also showcase the difference between them.
Things change. Not us! Not demons!
Angel, now having a soul, can change. He's able to grow. But Spike, he's still lost in Neverland. Buffy comes to face off against Spike.
Do we really need weapons for this?
I just like them. They make me feel all manly.
As we've seen, Spike is impulsive.
Couldn't wait.
Not an idiot. While facing down Buffy, he is referencing the last Slayer he killed.
The last Slayer I killed, she begged for her life.
I think a pre-season 2 Buffy may have been a little more intimidated by this. But Buffy has been killed by, and then killed, the Master. As they fight, we come to see that Spike isn't as easy to deal with as other vampires. I'd also like to give a little shout out to Xander, still trying to hold his own. Spike goes to finish her when...
You get the hell away from my daughter.
Women!
I know, right? If I had a penny for every time a woman came at me with an axe. Now, of course, this showcases one of the key things that makes Buffy different. Her friends and family, meaning she's never alone. Something that was a weakness of previous Slayers. Also, let's put a little tick in the parenting right column for Joyce. The police show up and we get a few little character moments. Jenny and Giles, though not overly coupley this episode, get a little closer.
I will understand if you decide to start avoiding me.
Xander and Angel have a bit more of an understanding. And when I say understanding, I mean yet another reason for Xander to hate him.
And if he bit me, what then? We would have known he bought it.
And we find out that Snyder knows a lot more about what's going on than he lets on.
You want the usual story? Gang-related, PCP?
What you have in mind, the truth?
This proves that when he made the comment earlier...
PCP. It's a gang on PCP.
He knew they were vampires and he was covering this up. The episode ends with Spike pointing out the very thing that was his undoing.
A Slayer with family and friends. That sure as hell wasn't in the brochure.
Before grabbing the Anointed One and giving a bit of a mission statement for the series going forward.
From now on, we're going to have a little less ritual and a little more fun around here.
Up until now, the show has always referenced one girl in all the world, and Buffy is a great fighter. But here it showcases something more, which is her budding skills as a leader. When looking at leadership qualities, people often reference managers or people barking out orders, but these are childish notions. Let's take a look at Spike as the leader of the opposition. He does so using force.
Use your head.
Blames others.
You should have someone out there.
I did. I'm surrounded by idiots.
And is so focused on his goals, he's not looking at the bigger picture. But what Buffy demonstrates is a level of assertiveness.
Nobody goes out, nobody comes in until I say so. Do you hear me?
Placing others' well-being before her own. She leads by example and shows high level of competence.
You can't go out there.
I know. That's why I'm going up there.
And delegates meaningful responsibility.
Giles, my mother's in that room. If I don't make it out of here, I know you'll make sure she does.
Bloody right I will.
These qualities inspire loyalty, and bringing us full circle back to Joyce, at the start of the episode, she treated Buffy like a kid. But here, well, she says it best herself.
I have a daughter who can take care of herself, who's brave and resourceful, and thinks of others in a crisis.
Spike and Drew's introduction marks a change in the overall direction of the show, and the vampires moving away from the religious iconography and into something a little more playful. It also does a wonderful job of filling out a little more of Angel's backstory.
Yeah, what's the deal with you being Spike's sire? What's a sire?
We are led to believe that the sire is the vampire that made them, their parent in effect, and I think it does hold true in the extent of the family meaning. As we later find out, Darla turns Angel, Angel turns Drew, and Drew turns Spike. But once together, they play very much as a family, with Darla and Angelus playing the parents. Angelus is very much the head of the household. The term sire has a few different meanings, but can be any ancestor, so in that respect it holds true of Angel. And as we mentioned earlier on, this is secretly setting us up for Angelus' return, and
A little more fun around here.